This is The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path, the podcast that invites you to join two Mississippi mystics and real-life sisters as we build the pillars of our craft and share all of the ways we use our intuitive gifts and spiritual tools to create an intentioned spiritual life full of abundance, prosperity, laughter, and fulfillment. It doesn't matter your lineage or magical tradition. We know that it is lonely out there for the new mystics, witches, and hoodoos. So just know this, you are welcome and wanted here in this magical and charmed corner of Beyonce's internet. If you're ready to create a holistic and modern spiritual lifestyle that respects uniqueness and embraces eclecticism, you are in the right place. This week's episode continues our Red Hot and Sweet Pink series on love work. In part 2, we transition from mindset to love correspondences. This is where our creativity really shines. Gathering our spellcraft materials is the most sensual, Venusian, and creative aspect of our magical work. This episode will help you really indulge in the sight, sounds, and touch aspects, as Andi and I give you a smorgasbord of hoodoo-inspired ideas on which ritual recipe elements are most conducive for the juicy love and relationship spell work to come in part 3. So get ready for all the tantalizing love spell tea on ruby red love potions, sexy audio apps, and the sun card. Oh my. The love vibes are off the charts on this brand new episode of The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. Hey, I'm Halicue.
And this is Andi.
Welcome back to The Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. Y'all, we are moving right into episode 2 of our comprehensive series on love work and love magic. You can hear Andi wailing in the background. Here we go, but we go keep going. Y'all, we know y'all loved part 1 of this series. It was I think the most downloads in the first 3 days we've ever had. So I know y'all are into it. We love it. And Andi and I love it too. Even though it feels like pulling teeth with us, we're going to give y'all everything you need to begin your love work from a good place, from a well-intentioned place. And we're giving you all the tips and tricks that we know, that we've used, that have been a part of our life experience and what we've used in our own love magic. And Andi and I have to admit, our love magic is pretty fire. And this is the fun part. Last week, we talked all about getting your mind right. Like that's where everything begins. If you get started from an effed up like mindset and mind space, your work's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to do anything. So now that we've gotten that done and you all marinated in that deliciousness for a week, we are going to move right into the fun part. I even consider it kind of magical arts and crafts. This is where we gather the elements. This is where Andi and I help you feel like the magician card. We're wanting you to get your table ready and bring all of those things, earth, air, fire, water, in different forms so that you can begin getting your quote unquote ritual recipe together. And this is the part where we really enjoy being creative in our spirituality. You don't really have to be like Andi is a maker. Like she is a creator. She is making jewelry. She's making candles. She's drawing. She's creating the labels and incantations and intentions. My creativity is a little bit different, but we can all feel like artists in this part of the spell work. This is where we're gathering the correspondences, all of the crystals, botanicals, different visuals, things to read and listen to that get you ready to do your work. And also, Andi mentioned something very important a couple of episodes ago. When we get to this part, you don't have to make the mistake that a lot of new mystics and witches and hoodoos make by feeling like you need to buy everything. That the answer is consumerism. Andi, a couple of episodes ago, reminded everyone to upcycle. Like you're going to be going into your kitchen, go into your closets, like your witch cabinets, and look for stuff you probably already have out in your garden, out in nature. So I am ready to get into it. And Andi is also, I need to let y'all know, is hot and spicy today. Andi, how are you feeling? What are you thinking as we jump into correspondences?
Correspondences are fun. I like preparing for spells. I like the brainstorming and the creative process of it. Subject matter notwithstanding. And if you ask like why, I don't necessarily get frustrated with love work. I get frustrated with the difficulty of explaining that love work starts with self. I think people consider glamour magic or like love magic or this kind of work external work or command work or mastery work. And a lot of it has to do with your own headspace. Sex for women in general, love for women in general has a lot to do with our mental headspace. So people get excited to get into this work, but it's kind of like the area of work you want to be like, here's a disclaimer. Well, here's a Doctor Strange spoiler. Like, Scarlet Witch didn't do her shadow work. Like, that should be the theme of the movie. What happens when a witch does not do her shadow work?
When you don't deal with the hard part.
Yeah, like when you don't do the work, this is what happens. You ruin people in 20 multiverses. So, it's kind of one of those things where, even though we're going to talk about a lot of outward practice, please understand, like, how you come to this magic is going to be what you get out of it. If you come in desperation, that's probably what you're going to get. If you come to it, feeling like you are broken, which 9 times out of 10 you're probably not, just somebody did something to hurt you, that's how your work is going to come out, right? So think of it that way. This is important. This is fun stuff we're talking about. It's stuff that people want in their lives, and love is great. I'm not one of those people that's a Debbie Downer on love. I've loved the person that I'm with since I was 15 years old. However, we also tried to ruin that in several ways across those years too, right? So it's just all about your headspace.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was exciting.
Yeah, and this is
it was exciting.
And this is a long game. Like, some of this can be quick work in theory, but really, if you want to do it well, it's long game work. It's about conditioning yourself to be able to receive and give in this work. So I'm just going to say that as a disclaimer, because y'all get all in these episodes and get to throwing correspondences around and
making stuff you don't understand.
Have crazy in your life and can't get it out. Don't come back here to this podcast because we told you. Just make sure that your head, and I don't mean just your head, the person that your target's head, right? The person that, is going to be the object of your affection. Like, that also is something you need to be aware of too. So just some disclaimers. That's it, girl. How do I feel about correspondences? I love it.
Honest. So she takes her a little while to warm up, but the second the botanicals hit her hand, the second she picks up the crystals, she, her maker's heart gets activated. Andi, so I'm shuffling, and it's time to, before we get ready to do our spell work, what do we do, Andi? We divine. And so I'm shuffling the cards, and let's see what our message is for the day, our guiding message. I knew this was going to happen. Okay. I knew it. So Andi, as usual, brings the moon, and I will be bringing the sun. Our card today is the sun card. Andi, I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. Oh, goodness. One of the most beautiful major arcana cards. One of my absolute favorites. I do this for a lot of, I like to use this card in my road opening spell work, but this sun, like, what's happier? Andi, this is I call it the Cameron card. This is literally my nephew in this card. Like, it's like a little blonde, beautiful, naked baby on a white horse. There's beautiful.
Okay, Cameron would first like to say he's not that pale. He's getting his summer crust on him.
Okay, I'm not even going to get into that.
Around the edges, he's browning up a little bit.
Just a bare, okay. That's all right.
Got these recessive genes, y'all. So he a little golden, but he said he working on it.
Andy's children, y'all should know, like, Andy's children are unbelievably, like, just blonde and bodacious. Like, they're just these gorgeous blonde bodacious babies.
And there's also, like, a blonde streak that's causally related to meanness in our family.
That is so true.
I also know that this is not an issue of colorism for us. It's about the direct link to the meanness gene for us.
Here we go. I know, with our light brights in the family. Oh my gosh, we're like the rainbow. We're the rainbow coalition in our family. But Andi, obviously you can look at this card and tell the sun shines on this endeavor. This is good work. This is honorable work. And it's needed work. I want you to know that, what does the sun card say for us? And as we get ready to jump into correspondences in this episode in particular, it means that our intentions are pure, right? We see that the gorgeous, white horse holding the baby, gentle, steady. We're protected in this work. We see that by the gorgeous whitewashed brick wall. We're going to come to this work with some optimism and some cheer. And even though Andi and I are full of cautionary tales, because what can I say? That's the way we were brought up. We're going to do our best to turn our face to the sun like the sunflower does. We're going to keep our vibe really vibing and our auras clear and shiny. And we're going to have some courage in doing this work. Like, we see that beautiful red banner. And so red is about courage. It's about passion. So let's get ready to enjoy ourselves. This is nothing but a positive, a really, really positive message. This is card number 19 in the major arcana, the sun card. So I'm super excited. I love when we get that card. I feel so much heat and fire and warmth off of that card. And I also want to say too, we're about to, it's eclipse season, and we're rolling up on a full moon. It was shining so bright last night. So let's just remember, when we get ready to hit, full moon status, it's, if you're going to do any rituals, and there's some different feelings about whether or not you should even do rituals during eclipse season, I'm definitely going to be doing some thinking and some candle work, not necessarily manifesting, but this is a good time to think about what you can release, what you can let go of, especially around things that are, that have to do with Scorpio, because I think this is a lunar eclipse like in Scorpio. So things that when it comes to old taboos, secrets that you're ready to let go, attachments that maybe went a little bit obsessive, because Scorpios are mysterious and mesmerizing. They can be like a little bit obsessive too. So maybe think about releasing some of that during this full moon. And that is a little bit of what we, have to fuel us in our conversation today. So Andi, as we get started and we're talking about love work, Andi has two amazing love candles. One is my absolute favorite. One is the one that's so strong. Andi jokes, and I joke too, that it needs a warning label. It is that potent, it's that powerful. So you're used to having your hands in the botanicals out in the garden. Andi is this amazing master gardener and green witch, and she's forever like planting, cultivating, like making these amazing things that come right out of her garden. She's a jeweler, she's a chandler, and so she's always got her hands in the correspondences. She's also an artist too. She hand makes and hand creates these beautiful watercolor images for the labels for the candles. So it is only fitting and right that we get started, Andi, by asking, what are your faves when it comes to love work, love magic? Like, what correspondences really excite you and turn you on? And what do you recommend our listeners go to?
Well, when you start thinking about love work, I encourage people to think about start with the language around love work. If you look at the word sensual, right, it's around your senses. It's about, feeling, touching, smelling. So as you're starting to think about correspondences, how we start thinking about elements. With love work, I challenge you to maybe start thinking in a different way. So let's start talking about our classic correspondences, right? Damiana is one. It's an herb that is a passionate herb, right? So it lowers inhibitions. It gets you ready for intimacy and closeness. When you are looking at love work, I always think of the word sensuality, right? It's about your senses, perceiving things, how things smell, how they feel to your touch. So with Damiana, it is about a lowering of inhibition so that you feel more open about sharing touch and intimacy. There's some other common ones like rose petals, right? Roses were used in Victorian England and all of these places to communicate love, but in a more indigenous kind of like sourced way. If you look at a rose, it has a lot of symbolic representation about what love and relationships kind of are, right? People think about the thorns around love, but in a lot of indigenous cultures, pain isn't necessarily associated with something that's negative. It's more about the growth of process. So I love using roses. I like using deep pinks for lighthearted love, more new, kind of flirty type kind of work, but the deeper the color and the hues and the more intoxicating the scent, the more serious the love work. So think about your range of color. Another common one is hibiscus. Hibiscus is a tropical plant. If you've seen them growing, they're beautiful. There's a plant that's highly associated with the island of Hawaii. So they have these huge petals. And actually why I think that hibiscus is a love is because it's a very, how can I put it, Q? It's a very phallic and very feminine flower at the same time. The petals open up and curl and definitely have these curves that represent kind of like a vulva. But the inside of a hibiscus looks like it actually shoots out and has pollen on the end. So it looks phallic, right? It looks like a penis. So it has a great physical representation, right, of the joining of sexes. But it also is very beautiful and very fragrant. Now, you heard the way I described that in a very cisgender type kind of way, but most flowers are kind of built that way. There's a female portion of the flower and there's a male portion of the flower. So I say that less in a cisgendered sense, but more in a way, that's the language we have to describe how flowers are built, right? So I just want to clarify that because we are allies on this show. So moving on, that's hibiscus. Hibiscus grows, it's an amazing, beautiful plant that grows in really hot, humid, like hothouse temperatures. There are some cold weather varieties. And by cold weather varieties, I mean they're actually a different version of the plant. So like if you have a Rose of Sharon in your yard or something that looks kind of they're in the hibiscus family, but the ones that are traditionally used for love work are those tropical kind of hothouse hibiscus. Same thing with color. I love deep pinks and reds. If you get dried hibiscus, it's amazing in tea. It's what actually colors a lot of pink teas that you are probably drinking. If you have like a pack of Tazo tea or whatever somewhere and you look on the back of it, if it's pink, it probably has hibiscus in it. It can be used as a dye. It has been used by indigenous cultures for forever in Hawaii, across the Americas for its well, not across the Americas, across the Caribbean for its dyeing properties. So they come in amazing colors. I like to get them dried in bulk. I put them in tea. They are also included in some of our candles. And I'll talk about the candles next. Another one that people don't know a lot about is safflower.
Andi, before you go on, can I just do a shout out to Andi's freaking tea? Andi makes a hibiscus-based tea, and Andi blends teas. And if you go over to tallulaahoyo.com, you'll see all of Andi's amazing tea blends. But I'm going to find a way I'm going to do an ode to Andi's tea. She makes these special magical sweeteners. She dehydrates fruit with special sugar on it. Like, it's just insane. We're going to talk about it a little bit more, but I can't listen. I'm literally sitting here listening to you talk about like hibiscus, and my mouth is watering because I'm remembering your hibiscus tea. So maybe Andi will bless us with her personal, and I've tried to recreate it. I don't even bother.
And I'm telling you, like, if you can get hibiscus in bulk, it's not expensive. Like, you can get a pound of it. This is just me, and, Andi's on her soapbox. Try to import hibiscus if you can from indigenous or at least people of color, in my opinion. I think that's what we should be doing since we are harvesting that in whole from their lands. A lot of it comes, I buy mine from a supplier in Jamaica through an herbal place in Houston. And I asked her, I know that woman probably thought I was the hibiscus FBI, but she orders from a company that imports from Jamaica. And so they smell better. They're usually, dried stuff can get old. Find you a reputable vendor from Jamaica because they produce some of the best, in my opinion, if you can, the brands that I found. Other things that are more fruit. So when we think about love work, think about sweetness, right? So when Halicue's talking about those herbal teas, things that pair well with hibiscus, do we have to say it? Passion fruit. Pomegranate is another one that's associated with boundless love. It has been a symbol throughout history in a lot of cultures, even European culture, around love. A lot of people, there's this, story that the pomegranate was the fruit in the Garden of Eden. I think that we get hosed in that story, though, so I don't mention that a lot. So those are some of the correspondences. Oranges are great ones, right? Like oranges for love work. Let's talk about flowers. Jasmine, right? Rose scented things. People like to use a lot of lilac and spring flowers. Some of that stuff can be a little cloying to me. I love things like honeysuckle. Like that's a really sweet smell, but it's kind of unique. Sometimes you get a lot of like rose blends and you feel like you smell like your grandma. Like I love rose water, but like when I'm feeling sexy, I don't necessarily want to smell like rose water.
Me too. I never felt like roses is what I want to smell like to get shit started. I've never felt like that.
Exactly. Because we overuse roses for everything. So like the scent is something that's a little played out. So let's talk about my candles. Let's talk about entice. That's the deeply passionate, I'm going all out. It is when people say, what kind of magic do I center on for entice?
Who child?
Put it to you like this. It depends on what you want when you light it.
Exactly what y'all want, and it's got it for you.
Your real relationship, so we ain't got to talk about my past. I've lived my life. That ain't none of y'all's business. I'm a player from way back.
Exactly. I'm about to say that ain't y'all's business. We're here for y'all's business, but we gonna come through.
Sometimes the connection that you want is a physical one. You want passion. You want to get with this person. It might be someone I'm married. It might be that I'm setting up that I really want us to make an intimate connection. It's about binding the person that you love together with the intention that you have around love. So I tell people, be careful with this candle, because if you want to bind someone through a great sexual experience, y'all may completely bind with this candle this way. That's all you're going to have. But if you're trying to lock down this dude for life, you could do that with this candle too. That's what Entice is about. It's about the attraction and the drawing in process. So I can't tell you, it's a mixture of binding work and command work. It's a little bit of both, right? The candle is this really, girl, when I told Halicue this story, and as a witch, y'all would appreciate this. When I was trying to get the color right in this candle, just the depth of this red that I wanted, because I didn't want, bright flame red like hot. I wanted blood like hot. If you look at the visual in the front of the candle, it's someone's hand holding an anatomical heart. It is about the capturing of something. So I wanted this blood kind of deep red, but not like dried blood, but like right when it flows, this really bright crimson blood-like color. I worked so hard on the color of this candle, my period started. You all, I take a birth control that doesn't allow me to have a period. So that's just when I told Halicue, I was like, oh my God, this candle is going to make somebody pregnant. Halicue's like, that's great.
Yeah.
So
I am. I'm sorry. I'm Andy's biggest fan. And I was like, and she's like, do you want a sample? I was like, no.
That's not for me.
That's not for me. That's not for me.
So know that the candle is serious business. So I love the color. I had to work really, really hard to get the color that I wanted. So inside of the candle, first of all, this is one of our scented spiritual candles. And if you are using spiritual candles without scent, you are only 10% into the game. Our bodies are scent triggers muscle and mental memory, right? Just like I tell you that there are crystals in candle wax so that they can capture your intentions and reflect them back. That's how candle magic works. That's the science behind it. Think about scent and sensuality. This one has a pomegranate, honey, and clove mixture. It is literally seductive. You can use it to set the scene, and it's going to smell like you want to do something to someone. That's the best way to describe it. Like, it's,
Andy, say it again. It smells like what? What's it smell like?
You want to do something to somebody. And it's true, because if you're usually working with the entice candle, what are you doing? You're trying to entice somebody, right? That's the point. So the scent is very, I start blushing when I talk about it, because the idea that I thought of is, you know how smoke will trail into a room when you light your incense like Palo Santo, and the next thing you know, it's around you, and then that scent is just in you and permeates you? That is the idea around the scent of the Entice candle. So crystals, my candles always have crystals. So we have some wonderfully polished, because I wanted it to be smooth to the touch. So bringing in that sense of touch, like the carnelians and rose quartz are polished. You all know I love to use rush stone, but the polishing here had a purpose. In the herbal profile, there are rose petals, damiana, and red raspberry are worked throughout the layers. And if you know anything about my candle, mine are different in that a lot of fixed candles only have herbs at the top. Mine are layered into the candle. So it's a pretty unique process. Shh, don't tell anybody. But so there's different levels as you build your work. So Damiana and red raspberry leaf are worked into that. If you've never worked with red raspberry leaf, I use it in my smoke blends as well too. It's a sweet herb. It's actually the leaves from the red raspberry plant. So the same sweetness, like you get that sweet tart in raspberry. These leaves are sweet. They have a light, kind of springy taste to them. So I love using them in smoke blends. They make a great smoke blend base if you're looking, because sometimes mullein mullein can just, get to be too much. But I like red raspberry. And it has hibiscus and safflower in it. So I love it because sometimes in the candles, when you get a piece of hibiscus that hits that hot wax, you'll get these streaks of this beautiful red that are running throughout. So I suggest that if you were working candle magic with Entice, the spell is definitely around, because this is the concept. There's two carnelians. There's one at the top. There's one at the bottom. As you burn the candle and you work your intentions around your love work, and there's a ritual that's included, so I'm not going to, spoil that for you. But as those two carnelians meet, your magic is set by the time those two stones reach the bottom of the candle. And so the idea is like with our novenas, you work through a moon cycle, or you can, with our novenas, actually, you can make those last for like 3 or 4 moon cycles if you want to. But if you are really concentrated on love work, this is one you're going to burn either daily or every Friday, because Friday is when we do our love work. So as you are working this candle over the moon cycle, depending on the intensity you want for your target, as those 2 carnelians burn down and meet, that's when your binding is set. You want to save this candle glass. Usually at the end of rituals, I will tell you to throw away your candle glass. You save this one. If you've got a spell jar, amazing jar work. You can use it for sweetening jars, other love spells, self-love work. Keep that bad boy. For your novenas and other glass, you're going to keep them. Because if any for reason you want to break that bond that you have with the person, you want to take your glass, put it inside of a pillowcase, and break it. And you want to bury your 2 carnelians. And then that's the way that you can break those bonds with that candle. Fuller waxing moon, the magical oils that are included in both of those, Love Me oil, which is a personal blend. It's got about 10 herbs from my garden. And then Cleo May oil. Woo!
Hey.
Cleo May is a classic one. Cleo May is about enticing.
Halicue likes the Cleo May oil. I for reasons I'm not exactly sure about. I will never forget making my own, and I love when Andi talks about it.
I look, I ain't got 3 babies for nothing. So babies are not an issue in our family. So just to let you know.
No, they are not. It is the work of me and Andi's life to keep from getting knocked up. Oh my God.
Whether we want it or not, whether we want it or not, this is the magic and the ministry we have been blessed with, is how to get this done. So that is entice. That is for your serious love work. That's for, you ready to lock it down. Love yourself is a different type kind of candle. And this is the one that actually should come first. And I've talked about this before. Love yourself is a candle that is centered around preparing yourself for love and identifying what it is you want to find out of your love relationship. That is so important. Just like Halicue divined, people don't do that first. So I talked about entice because we're talking about love work and that's our feature. But I will tell you, this is kind of like the cleansing that you need before you start your love work. Because the ritual with the Love Yourself candle is all around, how do I know what I love about myself so that I can better understand the qualities I am looking for in someone that I want to love me? Let me say it again so the people in the back can hear me.
Please.
How do I identify the qualities that I love in myself so that I can truly start to look at the qualities I expect to see in another person that I want to be coupled with? Like that's the kind of idea behind the work. And the idea is that, that is the process that you want to go through first to even identify like, hey, I'm not even sure what I love about myself. Well, then there's some more work you need to do before you do love work, right? And that's okay. But it also can help us understand what is missing in ourselves. What are the things that we might need to be aware of before we bring that energy to someone else as well, too? Because, I tell you, as magical people, there are things that we are looking for, but we are also responsible for the energy that we bring to others. Right? But it's an important part of the process. That's why I love the Love Yourself candle for you first. It's pink. It's this really bright, almost like neon pink. And that is a sign of affection and self-love. It reflects some of the really deep and bright pinks that are in pink opal. So there is raw pink opal that's included in that candle. There's also holy basil, which is it's a herb that a lot of hoodoos use in cleansing baths. Orange peel is in there for self-love, building confidence. It helps ward off depression because a lot of times love work and identifying love patterns in our life can be traumatic. There's Earthly Delights oil, which focuses on joy and success, balance, and spiritual blessing. And then there's Earthly Rising oil, which is a voodoo-based oil. Which is centered around beauty, love, creativity, and fortune. So I love that Earthly Rising oil. It takes me about 3 moon cycles to make it. It takes forever to make it, but it works so well. In the crystal profile, I talked about the pink opal. Pink opal supports emotional healing and a release of fear. I think that's so important. I just found these amazing pink opal to make some spiritual bracelets. It's hard to find polished. So I'm going to make some of those the gemstone bracelets we wear, Q. I found some. So because I love those to go along with this candle while you're doing your self-love work as a reminder, because it's about emotional healing, release of fear and love. So I love that for the healing portion of that stone. Also put in clear quartz. Clear quartz is like an amplifier. I tell y'all that all the time. If you're really looking to just amp up your work, add clear quartz, right? Manifestation, power, and protection. That's what clear quartz can provide you. And then, of course, one of the classics for love, right? Rose quartz. Unconditional love, forgiveness. And if you didn't know this about rose quartz, did you know, Halicue, it's used to treat sexual frustration?
What? I didn't know that. Seriously?
In Chinese medicine, yes, it is.
I did not know that.
So it is often used with women who are having sexual dysfunction.
Oh, wow. I did not.
In massage and in a lot of acupuncture work, too, they use rose quartz. A lot of people see rose quartz rollers on your face, and that type of thing. But use them over your external lady parts, too. Put them in your bath when you're doing love work. I love to do that. And any of these herbs that I talk about that are in the candle, of course, these drive and put into a blend. We have, I carry ritual bath sets for each one of these candles that have 2 little votives that you create a gateway with, and you can do love baths as well too. So my sister, the Gilded Apsara, creates those bath salts that go in those bath ritual kits. So always remember, for every candle that you love at Tallulah Ohoyo, I love baths. Know this.
Yep.
We're getting our plumbing replaced right now, and it is my single point of that I can't be in my garden tub. I love baths. And I mean, like, really hot.
I'm not joking, Andi. Like, we joked that, okay, Andi's got to go boil herself for half an hour. Like, Andi, every night, her day is not complete without a bath.
I retreat to my bath, to my boudoir, and I literally come out in a widow's robe like, yes, I've been cleansed for the day. That's something everyone should look forward to. So I have those ritual bath sets. People forget about those, and we have them for just about every candle, because a ritual bath should be a part of what you're doing anyway, right? To cleanse yourself before you do this work. Let me say that again. You should be doing cleansing work anyway.
Good grief. You've mentioned so many things. I was taking notes, and but something you did say that I think is so practical and is a hack, and it took, at least in the beginning for me, Andi, not so much. Like, she's a little bit much more organized than I am. But what Andi said about, if you combine all of these things, all of these botanicals, all these crystals, especially the botanicals, it's a bit much to ask you to make some of, these oils that Andi's making that, like she said, literally takes like a month and a half, like, to make. But when it comes to the botanicals, when you gather all those, make yourself a blend. I feel like the last time I was making a cleansing blend of herbs for like spiritual hygiene, for cleansing after I do a lot of readings. After a little while, gathering all this stuff became so, such a chore. Andi's right. Like, make yourself a blend, keep it in a jar so that way you've got some place to start and you don't feel so frustrated getting started with your work. Some of my favorites that I just wanted to highlight, and I'm going to get into something like a little bit different, because like Andi clearly is the maker, has clearly got her finger on the pulse of like what's most potent, what's most powerful for the products that she makes, and that, you don't, and that you can use yourself. Now, I mean, you're saving yourself a lot of work if you purchase a candle, especially, oh my gosh, that Entice candle. As you talk about it, I'm literally sitting over here like, woo, man, that is those are really, really, really powerful ingredients. And Andi's being a little, I'm not going to say, maybe a little self-deprecating about how freaking powerful that candle is, but when I tell you it yields results when you do all the preparation work, right, and follow your rituals, right? But some of my favorite elements for work, and believe it or not, like my sweetening work, I don't really do sweetening work on like, the love target of my husband. I generally do more sweetening work. And again, Andi's, the leftover jars from her little spell jars are brilliant for that. I do that more for work. Like, really more for work. Is there someone whose attention I want, or I want them to pay attention to me or my work? That's where I generally do more of that work. But making a self-love jar and a jar spell that I like to work. I love using the leftover spell jar, Love Yourself candle jar for that. And one of the main ingredients I use in that, and I'm not going to go over all the other ones because Andi already went over them, are Himalayan pink sea salt. That's one of my favorites. Like, we use salt for so many things for protection, but Himalayan sea salt is one that I think, and a lot of people, it's kind of easy to get Himalayan sea salt in a place like Costco that's like really affordable. That is absolutely one of my favorites. I want to remind everybody too to remember just the sweet passivity of color, color magic. Andi talked about a lot of the colors that she uses in her candles. And what did she say? And I just want to remind folks of this. Like, it doesn't have to just be in your candle work. It can be in the clothes that you choose. Remember your reds and your pinks. When I was making, and we'll get into some of the spells we like to make and some of the work we actually like to do in the next episode. But I love to remember just in my closet, like what's this beautiful, sweet pink? Like what's a really bright, passionate red when I'm creating content, like when I'm doing things for my business, or just as I'm, making myself beautiful, like before we go out on a date, or even have like some fun time just in front of TV, like in front of the TV, like watching our shows. Like I'm thinking about, what do I have that's pink? What's red? Maybe I'll go with a red lip or like a really gorgeous, like glossy pink lip gloss. I also want to remember Andi spoke earlier when she got started talking about the correspondences. She talked about something that I really love, and that's the Venusian, right? Venus is the planet of love, ruler of Taurus and Libra. And we want to remember those things and like those zodiological archetypes, and just remember that, like in terms of the cloth that you have around you, like what feels good, what feels sensual, what feels sensorial. What reminds you of Oshun, Aphrodite, like the deities, the goddesses of love. Like what are those things? And remember that in all things. So like when you're choosing your food, like what's hot and spicy, or what is a beautiful combination of what we want in love. If you're cooking for someone, find that wonderful way to combine, I forget who said this is on the read years ago, a sweet and a meat. Like how do you bring together the sweet with the salty and the spicy? Like remember that again, that's the sensorial element, the sensorial part of gathering your elements, and enjoy that part. You should be luxuriating this. Try to make fun out of going through every room in your house and finding these things that are already there, going through your kitchen, your spice cabinet. Something else, I don't know if Andi, you mentioned this, but one of my favorites, and I especially love this in coffee, when I'm wanting to perk things up or warm things up, and my love relationship with my husband, I'll, when I make his coffee, I'll drop a few cardamom pods in there. Those are some of my favorites too. Or if I'm making myself like I like to drink fizzy drinks. Y'all know I love toast. It's one of my favorite non-alcoholic beverages. I do a segment called Toast and Tarot on Tarot Tuesdays or Fridays. It's this beautiful kind of blush rosé color. And I'll add little tinctures, little oils or rose petals, or a few, like maybe not even a palmful, but maybe like a teaspoonful of hibiscus from my apothecary into those drinks, and share, maybe share that with my husband. So those are some of those things that you can do. And you like, remember the senses. Does it feel good, taste good, smell good? Those are the things that you want to bring in and around you and be using around the target of your love or your affection, even if it's, for a different kind of love, like friendship. And I also wanted to, Andi, if it's okay with you, and if you have some too, please like chime in. I would try to think of, for those that, Andi and I, we spoke a little bit in the first episode about getting your mind right. You want to get yourself and your body in the mood for love. I mean, I know that sounds cheesy, but there's some things you can do. And there's some new things that I've come across. Now, the books that I love, I love the book Glamour Magic. I love the book Bewitching the Elements by what is her name? Her name is Gabby Herstick. Like, she's one of my favorites. She's a sex and love witch. And those are some of her books that I love. And I love to be reading those books, having them around, looking at them. I like to go through my jewelry. Is there any jewelry that's really beautiful and attracting? Andi makes these really beautiful citrine daggers. When I wear those, like I feel like Oshun in the river. I feel sweet and I feel honeyed, and they make me feel attractive and magnetic and like a little dangerous. So that's just another thing to think about. But those are my favorite books. And here's my new favorite thing, Andi. I don't even know, have we even spoken about this? It's called the Dipsy App. And the Dipsy App is not paying us. Perhaps at some point they will. But man, talk about a way to get your mind right and to think about getting yourself in a state of almost like semi-arousal. It's a wonderful app. You can listen to it. It's kind of like, there was an old site years ago when the internet was first getting started called Literotica. And it was, people could submit different works of literary erotica. There was a lot of, fanfic erotica. Dipsy has taken that and just has gone ape shit with it. It's this wonderful app. You can either use it for free or pay for the subscription. But that is an audio experience. It is a passionate, intimate, erotic experience in your ear holes. It is an app, and it's wonderful. So
I was going to jump in and add something cute. So, like, for every candle that I make, I have a playlist that I use for the making of that candle. So, like, there's an Entice playlist. There's a Commune playlist. I have this playlist. Know the music. Like, if you are in a relationship or you kind of know the person that, you are actually doing your love work with, sometimes you can incorporate, you can find a way to interweave their music as well as in yours. But music, both spiritually with African Americans and with indigenous culture, are weaved with all sorts of intention. Right? So make the music match your intention. And this ain't just witchcraft, right? This just goes back to the art of the mixtape from the 90s and in the 2000s. Just, learn how to prepare the elements of your space for that type of lovemaking too. And I say lovemaking in both the physical and spiritual sense, because also too, let me say this, ladies, no matter what you're shooting for, and I mean, whether you're just shooting your shot or you're looking for the end game, like, just remember that as the goddess you are, there are so many times in life I've been like, ooh, I just want him to take control in the bedroom. That's not how it works. It's not how divinity is divine. It's just not how we are divined to be. As the divine feminine, I don't want to say that like we are leaders we understand sex on a much deeper emotional and physical level than men do. For men, it is an urge, it is a drive, like they can be connected to it. But what I'm going to tell you is you are going to be the guide on this trip. There's a long time part of my life where like you get these pictures of, the strong man on the cover of the magazine is going to come in and know what to do. They really don't. For whatever a man knows, a woman taught them what they're doing. So just take that role in knowing that as the holder of the divine feminine, and whatever form of that divine feminine you are, right? Whatever your pronouns are, whatever it is, just know that you are the person that is going to create what that looks like. Now, every time we lay down with someone, we're not looking to be a goddess. There are sometimes we are looking to just be downright tawdry. And I celebrate that just as much as I celebrate the really spiritual, elevated, tantric connections. All I'm saying is you are going to set the course and the meter of whatever that is. So be intentional about it. Lots of times we feel like we are the ones laying there that are this canvas that somebody is supposed to do something to. No. And if you are with someone who kind of doesn't understand that connectedness to divine feminine, something to think about. I won't call it a red flag, but something to think about, that might be a course of their education too. But I like to say that because I can't think of a pantheon, whether it's native practice, whether it's indigenous practice, where like in most cultures, like there is a display by the male, but the receiving comes from the female, right? We are the ones that are kind of setting the pace on how and when and if this is going to happen. So just know you set that course. And so be intentional about it. And I always try, it took me way too long, Q, I don't know about you, to articulate and ask for what I wanted to. It took too long.
Yeah, nothing unless you were, and the funny thing is, Andi, the only thing I ever saw or had access to growing up that talked to you about being sexually assertive or assertive about what it is you want, and just not even telling your partner what you want them to do, but just even speaking up to say, I like this, was freaking Cosmo magazine. And I had consumed a lot of Cosmo, like as a girl, because our mom got Cosmo magazine. There were always back issues lying around. But yeah, that concept is new. And you're right, it's taken time. But I tell you what I am going to do. And if y'all are mothers out there, and you've got, especially if you're mothering, young women and women identified people or femmes, encourage them as they're just getting started in their relationships. Man, you want these kids to talk to you. Now, me and Andy's kids have a tendency to overshare. Like our oldest children have a tendency to like overshare, but it's our job to role model so much for them. And I don't enjoy any conversations any more than when I have conversations talking to my daughters about, you have a say in all this too. And if you're smart, if there's an opportunity or a chance for you to guide the process, to lead the process, do it. This is your love life, your rich interior emotional life, your cups life. If we're going to take it back to tarot, take control. Take some charge, be assertive, say what you want, especially in the beginning, and especially as you're beginning this work. What you want matters. I don't think it makes any sense, and now I'm probably getting a little bit left. I don't think it makes any sense to be really, truly think about what it is you want, because I don't know, what's the purpose of doing all this work just to, if what I want is to submit and I want him to take charge, like, oh.
Or I'm gonna put it in this way. Like, I don't know, like, I know subs and doms too. Like, if that's your thing, just understand, like, there are different.
Oh, well, that's very different.
There's different formats, right? To connect both physically, sexually, and spiritually with someone. The bottom line is you just need to understand whatever that connection is, there is power attached to it. There's no, how can I put it? I don't want to say harmless. There's, you can have relationships that may not be as serious or long lasting, but if you're letting someone into your physical place, your body is your altar, right? So that's why we're saying set the tone for what happens with your altar. You wouldn't let somebody off the street come in and just start fucking around with the altar in your home. It's kind of like the same concept.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Excellent example.
It's the same concept. Like, it's your altar. There are sometimes I use my altar for absolutely no good whatsoever. Halicue,
yep, none.
Start shit today. And then there's,
I know, and I'm like, everybody watch out, leave her alone. She came to wreck shop.
Then there are times I come to my altar because I want a deep physical connection with someone that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with and I have born children for. And then there are times in that relationship to where we each our own. I give myself self-love in a certain way because there are things that I need. And so I think that's important to say, because nobody jumps out the womb knowing what they want sexually. You have to explore. You have to kind of let go. And that's why I say your self-work is so important, because we all come with different stories, right? Guilt stories, shame stories, different walks of life. You may be growing up in a house like me and Halicue, where there's probably too much conversation about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But wherever you land, it's a journey. So don't feel like this is something that you are going to come and start this work and, oh, I know what I want, jump into it and just do it. It really is about self-exploration of self coupled with the outward work that you are doing. Right? So
true. Andi, as you say that, I'm gonna say this as we get ready to land. The self-love jar spell that I make, and I save all the crystals, I save all the correspondences from Andi's candles, and I cleanse the jar, and when I make my love jar spell. Oh, also, I'll be teaching you all how to do that in my my Terra Power Soul community on Geneva. The link's in the show notes. But Andi, when I make that jar spell and I consecrate it and I place it on my love altar, every single time, the self-love work is so important. So when I need to do something, or I need to do spell work, or I need to take something to my love altar, that's where I go, to that self-love altar. Everything starts with me. Like, before I would jump into like a skull candle spell, and that's really one of the tools I love to use for work, for love work, for serious work, but that's another show. That's where I always go. So I just want to amplify what Andi said there. Even in my own personal practice, even in a 26-year plus marriage, that's where I go. Every single time. It all starts with me, even when it comes to love. That's my Ace of Cups, the way I fill up my own cup to pursue some kind of love work, or to use my powers and my tools and my spell work to affect change. So Andi, thank you. You always give such a freaking comprehensive overview of the correspondences. And y'all, I really hope this helped. This is the fun part. Take this next week to do this, to get into your kitchens, get into your closets.
Please start with what you have first.
Yeah.
Please scour your house.
There's so much. I promise you there's so much. I promise you there's a packet of hibiscus tea somewhere, or some cinnamon or a rose quartz. I promise y'all already got a lot of this stuff. So start there. If you listen to this episode, re-listen to the first episode, visit Andi's website, visit my website, get yourself.
I'll do them one better, Halicue. If you DM me on Instagram at Tallulah Ohoyo and tell me that you listened to this particular episode, I will send you a 20% off code for either one of those candles, with the exception of the travel candles, because that's just a pain.
Yeah.
But For all the rest of them, I'll give you 20% off. Just DM me and say, girl, I listened to the episode. Because y'all need this work. You need this self-love.
You really do.
This is a gift. I need y'all to do this self-love work. I need y'all to give y'all self a gift of a ritual around this that centers around you first.
Yep, so true.
And not somebody else.
And if you want to give us a gift and show some love, y'all can go too. This is such a non-smooth plug, but since you mentioned it, Andi and I believe in keeping that limniscate going, that energetic flow. So, and if you want to keep that energetic flow going in reciprocation for the gift Andi just offered, y'all buy us a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com, look up the Pillars, the Porch, and the Path podcast, and just to give us a little love, buy me and Andi a coffee, and we're going to keep it going. And yes, never hesitate to reach out to us at pillarsporchpath@gmail.com. We love to hear from y'all, and we want to, DM us. You guys know our accounts on Instagram. All of the ways to contact us are down in the show notes. And I want you all to have some fun being the magician, gathering the correspondences, and of course, taking it back to the tarot. The sun shines on this love endeavor. We love y'all. See y'all next time on the Pillars, the Porch, and the Path. Did y'all have fun listening to this week's episode? For real, remember, especially as we get ready to start putting our spells together and gathering these correspondences, remember to upcycle. Start right in your own cozy little home to get started gathering the elements and sketching out your love rituals. And if you're really wanting to take action, don't wait. We are in a waning moon phase right now. So go to TallulahAhoryo.com to pluck up your self-love candle or the eternal moonlight candle. Both are favorites. And if you need a little guidance from the tarot to get clear on your love magic intentions, hot step it on over to my site at www.thegildedapsara.com to schedule your Love Lab reading to help you get your mind, body, and spirit ready for the powerful love magic we've been sharing with you in the series. If you're wanting more of our potent Pillars, Porch, and the Path energy to sustain and inspire you during the week, you can always email us at pillarsporchpath@gmail.com and tell us what's going on in that magical and mystical mind of yours. Of course, follow us on social media. All of our handles and links are down there in the show notes. For you darlings that just want to say thank you for all of the magical goodness that you're receiving in the podcast, did you know that you can buy us a coffee? Yeah, just go back down to the show notes and look for the sparkly coffee link down there in the notes. And finally, if you want to keep the conversation around spirituality, tarot, and candle magic going, join us on our new home on the Geneva app. This is the podcast's brand new and ultra fabulous free community that Andi and I are creating just for you on Beyonce's internet. This is where you can find our pre-show shenanigans and all of the extra special content that we're revealing just for you. All right, now you heavenly hoodoos, boss witches, and sexy AF sorceresses and spellcasters, join us right back here on our porch next week. Same day, same time, on the Pillars, the Porch, and the Path.